Some people go on holiday to relax, they lie on beaches, they read books, they sip cocktails with little umbrellas, utterly, mind-numbingly boring. Then there are those of us, the enlightened few, who look at a map, find something called the world's most dangerous road, and think, yes, that sounds like a perfectly sensible way to spend an afternoon. Signing up to hurtle down Bolivia's youngest road, charmingly nicknamed the Death Road, wasn't a decision made after careful consideration. Oh no. It was more of a hold-my-beer moment, fueled by an overabundance of misplaced confidence and a complete disregard for self-preservation. Because really, what could possibly go wrong on a narrow, unpaved track clinging precariously to the side of a mountain with a sheer 600-meter drop? It's practically a health spa. The name itself, Death Road, should have been a clue. It's not exactly subtle, is it? It's not called the slightly perilous pathway or the occasionally tricky track, it's the Death Road. They're not mincing their words. And yet, there we were, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to dice with, well, death. The local guides, bless their cotton socks, tried to instill a sense of gravity. They spoke of crosses marking spots where others had, shall we say, failed to complete the course. They mentioned landslides, fog, and oncoming traffic, because of course it's not a one-way street to oblivion. Adventure awaited, or at least a very long, terrifying descent that would make us question every life choice we'd ever made. Before one can tempt fate on a road named after the Grim Reaper's favorite thoroughfare, one must apparently be kitted out. The safety gear provided was an eclectic collection that looked like it had been sourced from a jumble sale after a particularly rowdy motocross event. Helmets were distributed. These weren't the sleek aerodynamic marvels you see in MotoGP. Oh no. These were more akin to plastic buckets with a bit of padding. Some had visors, some didn't. Some had chin straps that actually fastened, which was a delightful bonus. You could almost feel the safety oozing from them. Or perhaps that was just the lingering scent of 1,000 previous sweaty heads. Then came the jackets and trousers, brightly colored of course, so they can find the bits more easily. These were made of some sort of nylon material that promised to offer about as much abrasion resistance as a wet paper bag. Gloves were also on offer, ranging from thick enough to stop a small pebble to thin enough to feel every single vibration from the handlebars and the impending sense of dread. The bikes themselves were next. Sturdy mountain bikes, or in our more discerning case, slightly battered motorbikes that had clearly endured this ordeal many times before. The brakes were checked with a cursory squeeze. They work, the guide would announce with a confidence I didn't entirely share. Still, a machine is a machine, and this one had an engine which was a start. The initial part of the journey, you see, is a cruel trick. It's paved. Smooth, black asphalt winds its way down from La Cumbre Pass, lulling you into a completely false sense of security. You think, this isn't so bad. This is actually quite pleasant. The air is crisp and cold at over 4,600 meters, and the views are already spectacular, with snow-capped peaks giving way to rolling green hills. You're on a motorbike, the engine is purring, or coughing depending on its vintage, and life feels good. You might even start to believe that all the fuss about the Death Road is just hyperbole, a bit of clever marketing to attract gullible tourists, like us. This section is fast, relatively speaking. You can actually build up a bit of speed, feel the wind in your, well, helmet, and enjoy the sweeping curves. It's the kind of road you'd enjoy on a Sunday morning blast back home, if your home was perched on top of the Andes. The guides encourage you to get a feel for your bike, to test the brakes, gently, and to remember which side of the road you're supposed to be on. In Bolivia, that's the right. Except on the Death Road itself, where it's the left, because reasons. Confusing, yes. Deliberately so, probably. The transition from smooth tarmac to the infamous gravel track is, shall we say, abrupt. One moment you're gliding along, the next you're wrestling with a surface that resembles a badly maintained quarry. The road, if you can still call it that, narrows significantly. It's barely wide enough for a single vehicle, which is unfortunate because, as previously mentioned, it's a two-way street. On your left, the unyielding rock face of the mountain, often dripping with water or sporting inconveniently placed boulders. On your right, a view, a very, very long view, straight down, with no guardrails, because guardrails are for wimps, apparently, or for roads where survival is a priority. Suddenly, all those instructions about staying left make a terrifying amount of sense. The drop is precipitous, a sheer plunge into the lush green abyss of the Amazon jungle far below. You can see the tops of trees that look like tiny broccoli florets. You try not to look, but you can't help it. It's like a morbid magnet, pulling your gaze downwards. The surface is a delightful concoction of loose gravel, larger rocks designed to trip you up, mud, and hope. Mostly mud and hope. Your tires, which felt so reassuring on the asphalt, now scrabble for grip like a cat on a polished floor. Every bump and rut is transmitted directly up your spine. Amidst the constant, low-level hum of terror and the physical exertion of not plummeting to your doom, there's something else. The scenery. And it is, without a shadow of a doubt, utterly, breathtakingly, distractingly spectacular. As you descend, the ecosystem changes dramatically. You ride from the stark, wind-swept altiplano into the lush, humid Yungas cloud forest. Waterfalls cascade down the mountainside, sometimes directly onto the road, creating impromptu and rather chilly showers. The vegetation is vibrant green, a riot of tropical plants clinging to impossibly steep slopes. It's like riding through a National Geographic documentary, if the documentary crew had a death wish. The sheer scale of the landscape is humbling. Towering cliffs loom above you, while far below, the valley floor snakes its way into the distance, a carpet of emerald green. When the mist clears, and it often swirls around you like a ghostly shroud, the views are simply staggering. You can see for miles across range after range of mountains, disappearing into a hazy horizon. It's the kind of beauty that makes you want to stop and take 1,000 photographs. Which of course is a terrible idea because stopping on a narrow ledge with a 600-meter drop is generally frowned upon by the laws of self-preservation. But people do it. They teeter on the edge, grinning inanely for the camera, blissfully unaware or perhaps willfully ignorant of how close they are to becoming a permanent feature of the landscape. The air becomes thick with the scent of damp earth and exotic blossoms. Brightly colored butterflies flit past. You might even spot a hummingbird or some other exotic bird life if you can tear your eyes away from the treacherous track for more than a nanosecond. It's a strange juxtaposition. The raw, untamed beauty of nature and the very real, very immediate danger of the road itself. One moment you're marveling at a delicate orchid growing out of a rock crevice, the next you're swerving to avoid a pothole that looks deep enough to swallow your front wheel whole. Section 6. My fellow connoisseurs of catastrophe, the other riders. You're not alone in this ridiculous endeavor, of course. The death road attracts a certain kind of individual. Let's call them enthusiasts of the extreme, or perhaps more accurately, people with a questionable survival instinct. Sharing the road with these fellow thrill-seekers adds another layer of unpredictability. There are the overly confident ones, tearing off at breakneck speed, only to be found later looking sheepish and covered in mud. Their bravado is often inversely proportional to their actual skill. Then you have the overly cautious ones. They inch along at a pace that would make a snail impatient, break squealing in protest. You feel for them, you really do. But you also desperately want to get past them, because their glacial progress can be almost as dangerous as excessive speed. Overtaking is a delicate maneuver, requiring careful timing and a burst of acceleration. There are always a few characters who stand out. I recall one gentleman, let's call him Captain Calamity, who seemed to attract misfortune like a magnet attracts iron filings. If there was a loose rock, he'd find it. If there was a puddle of particularly slippery mud, he'd ride straight through it. He wasn't a bad rider necessarily, just spectacularly unlucky. Or perhaps spectacularly clumsy. Either way, his journey was punctuated by a series of minor tumbles and near misses that provided a certain amount of morbid entertainment for the rest of us, once we'd ascertained he was still in one piece. Section 7. Hairpin turns and heart-stopping moments. Just another Tuesday. The death road isn't just a straight shot down a steep hill, it's peppered with hairpin turns. Tight, blind corners with sheer drops and rock walls. Negotiating these requires a delicate touch and hope there's no truck barreling up the hill. This road operates on a share-the-terror basis. Moments where my heart took up residence in my throat. Surprise oncoming vehicles are a specialty. You're trundling along, then suddenly a bus or truck appears. And they're not stopping for you. You are the nimble one. Squeeze against the cliff face and pray your handlebars don't clip. It's an excellent test of your spatial awareness. The road surface can change without warning. Suddenly hit loose scree or deep mud. Your questionable safety gear feels particularly inadequate. You grip the bars tighter, your knuckles white, and try to ride it out. Section 8. Nature's car wash. Riding through waterfalls, obviously. Just when you think the death road has thrown everything it has at you, the terrifying drops, the hairpin bends, the oncoming lunatics and oversized vehicles, it decides to add another element to the mix. Water. Not just a bit of rain, mind you, we're talking full-blown waterfalls cascading directly onto the track. Because why wouldn't they? It's all part of the authentic, immersive, we're trying to kill you but in a scenic way experience. These aren't gentle misty sprays, these are proper drenching torrents of icy mountain water that turn the already treacherous road surface into a skid pan. It's nature's very own car wash, or in this case, biker wash. Riding through these waterfalls is an experience in itself. First you hear the roar, then you see the cascade, a curtain of white water crashing down onto the narrow path ahead. There's no going around it. The only way is through, so you take a deep breath, brace yourself for the impact, and plow on. The water hits you with surprising force, instantly soaking you to the bone if your waterproofs are as effective as mine were, that is, not at all. It blinds you momentarily, making it even harder to see the rocks and ruts hidden beneath the churning water. Your tires slip and slide and you fight to maintain control, hoping you don't end up being washed off the edge like a discarded crisp packet. The chill is immediate and profound. Even if the ambient temperature is relatively mild, the icy mountain water saps your body heat with alarming efficiency. Your hands, already gripping the handlebars for dear life, become numb. Your teeth start to chatter. Section 9. We survived. Now why did we do that again? Eventually, after what feels like an eternity of near-death experiences, jaw-clenching concentration and involuntary baptisms, the road begins to widen. The terrifying drops become slightly less terrifying. You might even see a guardrail or two, looking strangely out of place after miles of unprotected edges. The surface improves, the gradient lessens, and you roll into the small town of Yolosa, the official endpoint of the death road descent. A wave of relief washes over you, so profound it's almost dizzying. You made it. You actually survived the world's most dangerous road. You are a hero. A slightly damp, muddy, and emotionally scarred hero, but a hero nonetheless. The feeling of accomplishment is immense. You look back up the valley towards the mist-shrouded mountains you've just descended, and it seems impossible. Did I really just ride a motorbike down that? The camaraderie among your fellow survivors is palpable. There are high fives, backslaps, and slightly hysterical laughter. Everyone has a story, a near miss, a moment of pure terror they're eager to share. The guides, who've been a picture of calm professionalism throughout, finally crack a smile, perhaps relieved that they don't have to fill out any awkward paperwork for this particular group. You've earned your "I survived the death road" t-shirt, a garment you will wear with pride, even if it is slightly tacky. But then, as the adrenaline begins to subside, a question starts to form in your slightly frazzled brain. Why? Why on earth would any sane person voluntarily subject themselves to that kind of ordeal? There's no single easy answer. Perhaps it's a desire to push your own boundaries, to see what you're capable of when stripped bare of your usual comforts and confronted with genuine peril.